One of the things that I wanted to have fitted into the caravan when I had it built was a composting toilet, but unfortunately that wasn't an option, and no matter how many times I asked, the answer always came back as no, which was really disappointing, especially now that I find that Crusader is building the smaller caravans with a composting toilet option. So I pretty much had no choice and I had to fit one on my own. There are several challenges to fitting a composting toilet into the CRV series. To retrofit a composting toilet into the CRV series is a bit of a hassle, especially since the shower base does not go all the way under the existing taffet toilet. It stops there and the taffet toilet goes on after the shower base. So if you were to remove the taffet toilet, you're going to have to fill that area, and then you're going to have to look into waterproofing it all. And that is a really big job, and I wasn't too keen to try and rush it in the week that I had the van before we left for the trip. And I was thinking I would think about how to do it while I was on the lap. And while I was on the lap, Sue Newman and her husband Peter put up a post to say that they have successfully converted their taffet toilet into a composting toilet. Well, not converted. Converted is the wrong word for it. But they had successfully removed the taffet toilet and put in an Ogo composting toilet. So I was really, really excited by that. And I contacted Sue and her husband Pete, and we had a chat about what they did. And I decided that when I got home, I would go ahead and attempt to do the conversion. Now, when we were heading back towards Perth, we had a 2.5-week break before heading up to the Ningaloo. So I contacted Ogo to try and order a toilet, but unfortunately they couldn't get one to me in time. So I went ahead and did the next best thing after looking around, and I ordered an interim toilet, one that wasn't too expensive, and it is the Joolca Gotta Go. Now, the Joolca Gotta Go is a really interesting design. Now that I have actually got one, I have to say that it's actually really, really well built. And I thought I would take a risk with it because it was affordable enough. I think it cost me just over $300 for it. And if I decided that, it wasn't good enough, I could go ahead and order an Ogo later. So I went ahead and started the conversion with installing the Joolca Gotta Go in mind. The current toilet is a Taffet 400 series, and from what I understand, there is no shower base below it. So we're going to have to pull that out, find a way to fill the void, and patch the hole in the side wall where they've gone ahead and put an access door to remove the cassette. If you're going to go ahead and do this, then I think one of the first things that we should do would be to remove the water from the water tank. There is the water pipe on the edge that gives you the level. Put it down and that will drain out. Remove the cassette. The next thing to do would be to remove the two hatches. And from what I understand, there are supposed to be screws in there, 4 of them to remove. According to the Taffet installation manual, there's supposed to be 4 screws in here. However, there doesn't seem to be any in this particular installation. Now, there are two screws here, but I am pretty sure these are not the original taffet screws. This flap here normally sits in this area, and it houses the fuse together with a motherboard of some kind, a control board. There are two press tabs on the top and a tongue at the bottom, which will clip in there, and at the bottom there's a slot for the tongue that's at the bottom. The positive and negative feed wires come from the bottom, and what happens is the negative feed wire will continue to lead on to the top where the control board for the pump is. The positive wire goes to the fuse and then again feeds up to the control motherboard and the pump switch. So what I did was I went ahead and I tapped into the positive and negative wires using gel press connectors. You can get these from Joolca. You slip the wires in and you squeeze them. There is a little crimp in there, and there is also gel in there which keeps the contact dry, and it stabilizes the contact from rattling around. We've used this for the last 13 months. We have not had any issues. What I also did was I tapped the positive after the fuse. So what happens is at least the line which feeds my fan is still fused, but it probably doesn't really matter in regards to the fan. The wattage draw is extremely low. The positive wire after the fuse comes to the micro switch, alright, and this micro switch is normally open. The positive wire after the fuse comes to the micro switch, and what happens is this micro switch is normally closed, and when it is triggered, the circuit opens and there is no power to the fan. You should be able to hear the fan running right now, so I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this. There's quite a bit of silicone to remove, so I got a few tools to make the job easier. All of this is from the Big Green Shed. Alright, there were supposed to be 4 screws holding the base in place, but I couldn't find them. And there were 2 other screws on the side which don't look like taffet screws, but I've gone ahead and removed it just in case it's holding anything. To remove the seat, all you gotta do is to lift the toilet seat and then pull it up, and the whole seat just comes off. It's held in place by these 2. Now if you take a look, you will see that there are 4 screws here, so that's the next thing to remove. You'll be glad to know that these have been siliconed in nicely, so they look like they're waterproof. Gee, these are pretty long screws. Now the moment of truth. We've got to cut the silicone off. Now, just remember that you're doing all of this at your own risk, alright? Because I've never done this before. This is supposed to be a silicone removal tool. I got this from Bunnings. And from what I've seen, you put it into the corner. Oh. Now that's not too bad. That has actually pulled off the silicone. Okay. Now, I have gone ahead and lifted the unit a little. It's past that, but I'm going to go outside and check to make sure that nothing is catching. Seems to be coming out a little too easily. So it looks as if when I lifted it, the filler popped off, and it looks like that's just a simple push fitting. If you take a look real carefully, you will see that it's not flat on the bottom side, so it is meant to be installed and removed. And there is of course an O-ring to make sure it's all secure. The unit has lifted up, and I think that I should be clear to remove it. The only thing is I'm going to have to check on the feed lines to the board in here. But other than that, it looks as if it's ready to come out. Put that in there. Alright. It was stuck, and I realized now there was a piece of angle aluminium. It is stuck, but I realize now there is a piece of angle aluminium that Crusader added to the install, and that's what's holding this unit in place and preventing me from angling it out. So looks like I'm going to need to remove that piece. Right, this piece here seems to be the issue, but it looks as if it's coming off quite easily. So I think now I should be able to pull out the toilet without any issue. Yep. Let's head back in there. Alright, so Let's give it a go now. There we go. That's come up nicely. I've got the feed line, which I'm going to cut. All right, I'm going to have to insulate that. But it looks like that's the only thing holding the toilet in place. I'll have to double check that, but all right, and the toilet is out. Right, so this is what the area looks like. There is aluminium angle here, which I believe was used to support the toilet. There are some wires in here, real spaghetti mixed, and these would be, I believe that would be the indicator lights, and that would be the side light. There is one going down to the floor. I'm not sure what that is, but that might be, and I'll check that later, that might be to the pumps. These were the 2 feet wires to power up the flush pump, and it looks as if, yeah, it's just connected to a positive and negative in the loom. Right, so obviously I'm going to have to do something to make sure that all that's taken care of nicely and neatly. Okay, so that's the toilet remove. That's the easy part from what I understand. Obviously going to have to clear off all the silicone trim without damaging, especially this side, because this is timber, it's just melamine. On that side it's the gel coat. That should come off a little easier, so I'm not too worried about this side. And we'll have to find something to cover up this area though, this hatch. But my plan, because I still intend to run a fan for the composting toilet, is to use this entire area as an air box. So all I got to do is vent the toilet into here and use that as an air box to make it easier for the fan to extract the air. Right, next would be to remove these 4 screws holding this aluminium piece. Then I can remove all the wood shavings that we got from the factory and measure how thick the differences between the shower floor and the actual van floor itself. Looking at the screws, it is quite obvious that there is some moisture in this area. It does feel dry though, but I'm sure that there would have been seepage from the shower at some stage. We've also got a mixture of different screws in here. Okay, so we'll get rid of that first. Oh, also, seems to be a line down here that's not being capped off. I'll just double check if that's a live line. I suspect that it is. There we go. Aluminum angled out. And it looks like there is 10 or 12 mm over here. Okay. I'm going to have to remove it completely round, otherwise I'm not going to be able to seal this wall. This took quite a bit of effort to get all the silicone out. I was really afraid of scratching everything, but I found that if you got the blade at the correct angle, it's not so bad. I did spray a little bit of WD-40 as well to soften the silicone. Seemed to have worked alright. So now we just got to get it really clean, otherwise the new silicone won't stick to it. A big cleanup is the next job before I can continue and do anything at all. But it's done. It's out. Got the edges cleaned up. Got the majority of the silicone removed. I am a little bit worried about seepage further down the road, where it's inevitable that I'm going to have to join up or seal up an area that has some silicone already, and as we all know, silicone and silicone won't mix, so I might have to try and find another way to seal it. This is what the area looks like once you've removed the taffet toilet. That is the hatch to the outside, and we've got all the wiring. So what I've done is I've taped it up so that it gets out of the way, because I'm going to be laying a backer board down onto the floor to raise it. There is a difference in the lip over here of 13 mm from the vinyl. Now, one of the things that I found very interesting was we're supposed to have a composite floor, but I don't know if you can see, but this is clearly a wooden floor that's been drilled. I can see the wooden edges, and also I'm not sure which part is composite and which part is wood. The other thing is, once I remove the toilet, it's pretty clear that the vinyl isn't stuck down properly. It's all loose. So I'm going to make a couple of pinholes and inject some vinyl into there and glue that down first before I put the backer board down so that it will be clear. Now, another thing. This edge here is Sikaflex. It goes all the way around, but for some reason they didn't seal it over there. And this seal is actually really good, so I don't want to compromise it, and I'm not going to remove that seal because I double checked and Sikaflex will stick to Sikaflex. I'm using Pro Plus, and I'm going to be laying it all along the edge and the bottom to glue the towel backer board down, and that should secure it nicely. And then I'm going to silicone the gap. So when I put the backer board down, I'm going to leave a 2mm gap all the way around so that I can press silicone into there and create a seal between the final vinyl on the top and the sides. Silicone, obviously, it's clear that it will stick to the prepared surface of the ply. This is the kitchen wall, and the back, which is composite, and the side, which is composite as well. This here is the toilet hatch. The plan is to have a Perspex sheet against this side so that I've got an air space on the inside, and this will be used as an air box because I am hoping to add a fan or I'm hoping to add a hose to the toilet to be able to have some extraction. I'm using a Joolca Gotta Go, and that is not a vented toilet, and I will try it out first. If I think that it needs to be vented, I've got that option ready. What I have done is I've cut 3 slots and squeezed in some Sikaflex between the vinyl and the floor below, and what I'm going to do is weigh it down just to keep the vinyl flat when I put the backer board down. I put some baking paper down because the plan was to go ahead and weigh that section so that the vinyl would be flat. I just used some dive weights that I have to weigh it down. Now that I have glued the vinyl down, I'm going to let that cure overnight before I glue down the towel backer board. And the idea is to put Sikaflex around the perimeter and zigzag it across the center and around that hole and let it and weigh it down so that it's at least secure to the bottom and to the edges. All right, so I've reached the next step, and that is to glue the tile backer board down to the floor. As you can see, it's down. I have weighed it as just to make sure. As you can see, it's down, and I have weighed it just to make sure that it is secure. I went ahead and laid a parameter line of Sika, and then what I did was I did a zigzag along the edges and 2 circles under the board. From what I understand, the 2 circles are there so that when you press it down to let the air out, it creates a suction to the floor and it holds better. So hopefully that won't give me any trouble. The Sika also is just to the edge of just to the level of the towel backer board. And what happens is the vinyl goes on top of that so that when I put the silicone will be able to adhere to the sides. I also plan to overlap this area slightly with the vinyl, just to give it a more secure area to bond to create the waterproof seal. My only worry is that there is silicone going all the way there. We all know that silicone doesn't stick to silicone. However, I did see a video saying that if you use methylated spirits to make sure that the silicone is properly cleaned, and you put a dab of silicone on top, it will actually stick. So I am hoping that that will be the case. I will go ahead and get some methylated spirit or rubbing alcohol, and I'll let you know how it goes. Next part will be to do the backer board. I have gone ahead and taken the measurements, and I will have a fill board in the back to hide all the wiring. I have gone ahead and glued spacers in place against the back wall, and the false back will go against the spacers. There will be a panel over that. The spacers are there to make sure that there is enough space for the wires, to prevent the wires from getting in the way when I put the backboard in place. I've gone ahead and taped them all up for now. I'm going to go ahead and check all the connections to make sure everything works before I seal up this area. This red line will be a live feed for a fan, and that is the existing fan that I'm using right now, and I'm going to try and connect a hose to the Joolca Gotta Go unit. I'll let you know how that comes along. All of this is a work in progress. I am planning each stage as it comes. Whew. Gotta tell you, it's no fun working in a cramped space. Donna Marie is sealing the backing board because it is ply, and even though it is marine ply, we are sealing the edges and the surface on both sides just to minimize the any moisture that might be absorbed into it. Might as well put her artistic skills to good use.
Not quite the kind of art I want to do, but that's all good. It'll be worth it.
Absolutely. All right. So just to give you all an update, I've gone ahead, put the spacers in the back, tucked the wires up nicely, and I have gone ahead and Sika flexed the backboard in place. Next, I'm going to run Sika down the sides just to seal it up. And then I'm going to put a waterproof membrane on the floor at the corners, and then waterproof the entire floor before I lay down a vinyl towel. So what I will do is, just like the bottom, over here, it's only going to be Sika in the corner, so when I put a vinyl tile on the top, it will be a clean join between the side and the vinyl tile where I'll run silicone down, and that will be all the way around, just to make sure that I've got a good watertight seal. That side over there, I'm going to have to do a false wall to cover up the hole, and I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do there yet. I'll get to it when the time comes. I put on a layer of waterproof membrane and let them dry overnight. And what I'm doing now is I'm reinforcing the corner with the fiber tape, and I will do a second layer of the waterproof membrane. I am not a tiler. I have never done this before. I just Googled and looked up in YouTube what to do with shower stalls and how to waterproof them, especially in wooden buildings. So I'm just basically going off what I've seen on YouTube. Probably making a mess of it all. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. I put the fabric reinforcement tape around all the edges, and I am now going to go ahead and give it a second layer of the waterproof membrane. I think I'm going to go ahead and put on a total of 3 layers. The instructions for the waterproof membrane was to make sure that you cross over the grain every time you put on a different layer. That means going left to right the first time, then up and down the second time, and left to right again on the third pass. Alright, so this is 2 coats done of the waterproofing membrane on the bottom, and hopefully this will stop any water from going through. Fingers crossed. Let it dry and I'll be ready for the next step. Alright, so this is almost done. I've got the laminate in place on the bottom and on the back, and that is the hatch which normally opens up when you remove the cassette from the cassette toilet. This here is the fan housing that I was using. That was an air box that I had made when I did the homemade SOG. I've decided to leave all that in case I decide to put a fan to the composting toilet. One of the issues that has come up is this frame, I didn't realize, has a metal insert. So that sits proud of the wall. So if I were to put the Perspex, there will be a gap. The other thing as well I found out is that this hatch actually sits further out from this wall. So if I were to put the Perspex, it will touch that, leaving an even larger gap, which means that it will be very hard to get a nice uniform edge or nice glued edge to the Perspex sheet against this wall. So I'm going to have to shim the Perspex sheet so that I can go ahead and get a nice clean edge on the surround. Let me show you how I intend to do that. So the press spec cover which I am using to cover the hole where the hatch is will not sit flat to the wall because of that extra thickness of the frame. So I've just gone ahead and made a simple shim, and this is actually just out of laminate material. This has got no structural load at all. It is just a spacer so that I can make sure that the press spec sheet will be flat against the edge of the caravan wall on the inside of the toilet. And I recessed it back a little bit because I will put the silicone in there, and that will cover up so that you can't see the laminate sheet, and that will be what we will use to make sure that it is waterproof and that no water gets behind that. So just to show you what I've done on the outside, I've gone ahead and connected the fan to a switch on the inside, and this switch has a little LED light to tell me if it's on. And originally I had planned to use the whole space as an airbox, but I realized that it would probably be more efficient if I added the hose to the original airbox that I made. And all the wiring goes back into there. I've got a pipe in there to make sure that it doesn't chafe the wires, and also I have a pull through in case I decide to add a different type of composting toilet in the future and need a power supply. Alright, so this is the finished job. I've gone ahead and done all the laminate on the back and on the floor. The press spec sheet is in place. I showed you from the outside earlier. I had put on a switch for the fan and fed a hose through, and that hose will be connected to the top of the composting toilet that I have, which is a Joolca Gotta Go, and the Joolca is not vented. Now, to hold everything in place, I was thinking, instead of straps and all, I decided to use some rare earth magnets. These are the high strength ones, and I've gone ahead and put them in place on the board, and I've got matching metal strips on the Joolca itself so that it just locks in place, and the hose connects to a fitting which I have fitted to the Joolca. So this is how it looks in the caravan. Replace the taffet toilet. There's space on the side for your container of sawdust and a bottle of water and vinegar. And this fitting here is actually an aircon drainage fitting. I drilled a hole into the cover of the Joolca and connected the hose that I have to the computer fan. And on the inside, as you can see, it's just a push-in clip mount, and it doesn't get in the way at all. The Joolca has a slide system that you open up, and at the moment what I intend to do is to actually close the lid, leave the slide open so that anything that is in the seconds container or the solids container can be vented out, and that will keep it dry. This video is going to be pretty long because I've gone ahead and decided that I would walk you through all the steps of pulling out the existing toilet and waterproofing the area, building it up, and how I would go ahead and take care of the flooring and installing the Joolca into there. The way that I have planned it allows me to simply remove the Joolca at any time and install an OGO if I decide that the Joolca is not good enough. Now, the Joolca unit itself is not a vented toilet. There is a hatch for the solids, and after you use it, you're supposed to slide the hatch back in place, and that keeps all the smells from coming out. But I was thinking, if I could actually vent it and help dry it like the other composting toilets, I think that it would actually reduce the smell even more. So I started to work a way of venting the Joolca toilet, and I will go ahead and detail that for you guys as well. And I was also thinking of how to keep the Joolca Gotta Go in place, because it doesn't have any mounting points at all, as it was designed originally as a camping toilet or a van toilet, which you pull out to use when you need it to use it. So fitting it into a caravan is slightly different, and I needed to have a retainer. So in the video, I will walk through with you exactly what I have done to keep it in place. Now, before I get into removing the taffet toilet and going through the steps of building up the floor and waterproofing it, I've got to tell you that I am not a tiler, I am not a plumber, and all the information that I have gathered to do this has been through Sue Newman and her husband Peter, lots of Googling, and using YouTube to find out about waterproofing the floor. And as I mentioned earlier, I will go ahead and explain step by step in the video to you guys. Now that I've gone ahead and successfully removed the taffet toilet and put in place the Joolca Gotta Go, I will go ahead and do a review on the Joolca in a few weeks' time, after we've had an opportunity to use it for a little while. And I'll give you my honest feedback as to what I think about it, and also to let you know if the conversion has been successful and if any problems have actually come up that I hadn't expected. I hope you found this information useful. Please go ahead and click the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment for me if you've seen that I have done something incorrectly. Let me know so that I can learn from that, and other people who are watching the video can learn from that as well. Cheers.